Taoism says that openness is an ability to go with the flow, to be receptive without prejudging. Spirituality teaches us openness by practicing empathy, flexibility, and embrace the new possibility. So let's find out how spirituality enables the open-mindedness. In the panel discussion on the topic, spirituality and open-mindedness. In the panel, we also have with us Mr. Cosmin Constantine, who has spent 20 years of his life in sports and later became a fitness coach. Then he started teaching Hatha Yoga classes, which changed everything completely. He visited India, where he studied intensive courses of Ashtanga Yoga, Pranayama, Mantra, meditation, Yoga Nidra, philosophy and asana with Yogi Sunil Sharma and Yogi Kamal Singh at Tattva Yoga Shala in Rishikesh. Also in India, Rishikesh, alongside Swami Narayanananda, Dr. Jose Ruge Ribeiro Jr., Brazil. He also did the course of psychology, yoga and Ayurveda cosmology in Paramatniketan Ashram and Anand Lok. In Sudha Sabha Ashram, Brazil, along with Dr. Ruge, he studied Ayurveda, Sudharaja Yoga, meditation and scriptures on Sanatan Dharma on yoga line called Sudha Dharma Mandalam. The last 4 years he began to learn Nidra Yoga, Prana Kriya, Mantra Yoga and Yantra Yoga in the tradition of Kashmirian Shaivism along with Andre Ray. Our next guest is Ms. Sheena Patel, born into an Indian culture in Lusaka, Zambia. She has been educated in schools and universities across several countries. She lived with humans as well as wild animals. For the last 17 years, she is studying yoga with gurus in the East and doctors turned yogis in the field of trauma and brain CNS in the West. Yoga has created a sort of magic in her life. She lived in Coba Verde, where she shared the knowledge of yoga and sound from the podium of the mat with the written words to create change in most powerful place on this planet within humans.
I would now like to welcome our next panelist, Mr. Stefan Ivanovic. Stefan is a yoga and fitness coach based out in Montenegro. After high school, he went to the International Yoga Academy in Belgrade with his father and became a yoga instructor. He finished the Faculty of Sport and Physical Education and certification for personal trainer at National Academy of Sports Medicine from the United States. He owns and runs a Center for Body and Soul with his family in Montenegro. And he is working for Task Human International Wellness Platform from the US.
I feel honored to welcome our next guest, Mr. Gabriel Arrazola. He is a kinesiologist and a physiotherapist by profession from the University of Mayor de St. Andres. He has done numerous courses in yoga and meditation like Diploma in Motor Sciences and Human Development. Diploma in Yoga from Mexico. He has studied training and sports studies with a medical focus. He has been teaching yoga since 1995 in various educational institutions as yoga and massage teacher in La Paz in several cities in Bolivia, Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Chile, Paraguay, and Mexico. He is invited as a guest and participant in the 9 world meetings of yoga Yogismo in Mexico and Peru. He is the coordinator and collaborator in the AIYY Yoga and Restorative Yoga Teachers Training. He has been a professor of anatomy and physiology for the 3 years in the medical career of the France Tamayo University of Santa Cruz. He is currently working as an alternative therapist at the Center of Integral Therapies Elements, tutor teacher of the AIYY Yoga Teachers Training, yoga facilitator and personal development. He has authored many books like Massages, the Yoga of Contact, Anatomy and Risk Management in Yoga, The Initiate. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Gabriel Arrazola.
Welcome Sheena.
Hello.
Sheena ji, namaste. I welcome Cosman ji. How are you? Stephen ji,
Hello.
we welcome you. And
Namaste.
we acknowledge your presence also, Gabriel ji. And we welcome our wonderful audience from different parts of the world. Dear friends, today we are going to talk about Open-mindedness. Why did this topic come into picture? Many of the audience wrote to us that my boss asks for opinion, but he always wants to listen what he wants to listen. Some people from family, also different parts of the people, different parts of the globe, some of the families, they said that at our home, opinions are never welcomed. It is
Yes,
always from my parents' side.
I think I have a connect issue. I
Uh,
will getting from.
okay. Gabriel ji, your mic is. Uh, can you switch off the mic in case in between? Sorry, thank you very much. So, in case of families, also, parents say at times my way or the highway. In politics, also, this school of thought is absolutely correct, and no other school of thought is admissible. So, the first question I would like to ask from Sheena: what makes a person closed minded? Please unmute and speak. Please, Shinaji, can you unmute and speak?
Namaste.
What's the-
I've decided to see how open-minded you are. So there's all love. Sorry, what was the question? I got lost in the love of my glasses.
So the question is, what makes people close-minded? Like my type of specs is better than your types, and in the formal discussions, only this type of glasses are permitted. So what
Well,
makes people close-minded?
I think what really makes people closed-minded is that they've attached their sense of themselves to everything external to them. So they've attached their sense of themselves to their thoughts, their beliefs, their roles. And as a result of that, when they hear something that is different to what they believe in, they feel it as if it is an attack on them. And so they immediately shut down. And I think the problem in the world that we have today is that we don't understand that we are not our form. We are not anything external to us. We are a soul. And that soul is good and it's kind and it's filled with knowledge. And it doesn't matter what perspective is surrounding you. They are just different perspectives of reality. So I think the biggest barrier is people not knowing themselves. And so when they hear something different, they immediately take it as an attack on themselves.
Thank you. Very profoundly said, Shinaji, that they define themselves in their possessions. And if attack comes to the possessions, they feel the attack is on them and then they retaliate it. That's understandable. Stephen G, fine if I'm attached with my own opinions, but why we listen such things that if you won't follow this path, you are certainly going to hell. If you really want to go to heaven, only this is the path. Why do we listen such things in our worlds today?
Yeah, so basically there is a huge issue with development of the kids. Basically, when the kids are developed, the closeness of the parents or like somebody who is a caregiver, they just do not get enough appreciation of who they are as their authentic self, right? So when there's an issue with the authentic self, some of these people just try to close themselves in their own opinions with their own ego. And therefore, basically, the way they're not able to listen to other people, just to listen, doesn't necessarily have to be accepting what their thoughts are. It's just like, it's their mechanism of protection. So if you want to kind of listen to somebody else, then you feel that you are neglecting yourself. And therefore, like, you kind of go into the fight mode that like you're the only one right, because in their own perspective, in their own reality, if I'm not right, can I even live? Can I even exist? Like, maybe if I'm not right, then maybe I should be dead. Like, some of these things are really incorporated so deep into the like self, into the shadow, even what Carl Jung said. So it really comes with the development of their own personal belief and their own personal, self-confidence in one way.
Mhm. Profoundly said that it starts when we were kid, giving us a synthetic self rather than an authentic self. And then we try to, the ego mechanism or defense mechanism tries to protect that synthetic self that is
Yeah,
given to me.
yeah, yeah. That's it.
Pasminji, how will I know that a person is open minded? What are the features of an open minded person?
First of all, I think to be open-minded these days, it's understood like something to go with the flow and to go like to accept everything. But I think open-minded person can listen everything, can listen very carefully the life and everything, but also he is accepting everything like any other opinion, but is not bringing into his life or her life all the opinions and all the information that she or he is getting in contact. So I think it's a little bit misunderstood nowadays, the concept of being open-minded, because uh, only a dead fish can go with the flow, you know. You have to be dead to go with the flow, in my opinion. And I think to be open-minded is to not have, sorry, I have a sensor here. To be open-minded means to listen everything, but to not accept everything, and to take care about your unique way of perceiving or putting in practice your life, and in the inner world and in the outer world.
Thank you. Pasminji said that one of the parameter to know whether the person is open-minded is he ready to receive, to listen you. If he's listening you with patience, even those thoughts which he doesn't agree, that means that person is open-minded, though acceptance is a choice furthermore. Sheenaji, when it comes to acceptance, do you feel that society in the world has accepted woman as equal as man? It is a strange question I'm asking. Women had to struggle for millenniums to get equality in the society. Do you think that equality is completely established right now, or still male are close-minded about it?
Oh, you ask me such big questions and then give me 2 minutes. Oh, I don't know if we've reached that place of equality, but I don't really think it has to do with men and women and our genitalia. I really think it has to do with our own personal insecurities. That it's not that women are seen as unequal or lesser. I think in the mind of so many, we are still seen as a threat to oneself. I feel like anything that we close ourselves off to is something that threatens ourselves. So no, we haven't, but I don't think it's as black and white as saying that we're unequal or we're treated differently. I think the picture is a little bigger about, if I put this in another way, what Cosmin, did I pronounce that properly, was saying, was that I think what is really the question when you're open-mindedness is when you speak to someone about a gender or something different is, are you able to see your reaction to it? It's not just about hearing someone else, but being able to say, how does that make me feel when I hear that? And why does it make me feel that way? And what is it within me that is making me feel uncomfortable? Or it's really everything, like you said, is a journey into ourselves. And so I think with men and women, the bigger question is, why is it that men still feel threatened by women? What is it about us that makes you, what is it about us that makes all of you feel so uncomfortable?
Okay.
Obviously not all of you on this panel, but men in general, what is it? Is it the fact that we control birth? Is it because we are the holders of the future? And I don't think it will change until men start to ask that question. What is it about us that creates an imbalance?
Very important point she raised, and this is what is happening in many of the countries, including Iran, what we are seeing. And right word she said is threatened. So when somebody says something against my beliefs, opinions, I feel threatened. Or my religion, I feel threatened. So having understood this much, that this is the threat perception that makes me react. Now, how spirituality can help me to reduce this threat perception? This is the question to Stephen.
Yeah,
Please
sorry.
unmute it.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, spirituality itself can be a double-edged sword, actually. You know, spirituality in one way can actually open up the perception of, the equality and open-mindedness. But then on the other hand, if somebody has a self-identification issue or life ego issue, that can lead you to completely another way, another perspective. So it's really like about how we are, again, open-minded of like actually developing ourselves as a person, because unfortunately there's a lot of fakeness into the spirituality world. There's just that narcissistic need when people are saying, I meditate 50 times a day, I don't know, do yoga, I do breath work, I do this, but speaking about love on Instagram or whatever it is, but there's the core essence of that, the core acceptance of that. And there's like so huge like ego issue, like, I'm the best teacher because 500,000 people are following me on Instagram. No, that's not the core value. The core that are you actually carrying that love with yourself? Are you actually carrying that expression with yourself? Do you actually motivate people of actually changing themselves? Or are you just in that narcissistic need to be guru, to be like the teacher, to be, the boss? There's that double-edged sword in this world.
Thank you.
Like,
Stephen raised a very different perspective to it. He said, yes, spirituality can contribute, but he mentioned that caution first, caution of spiritual arrogance, caution of spiritual escape. That at times for some people it is an escape. And he also mentioned that you are not good to the next door neighbor, and you're talking about goodness to the two countries. So it is always easy to tell that these two countries should not fight with each other, but I'm fighting with the next door neighbor. So, how much open am I about these things? And spirituality can go in that direction also if it is not handled properly. So, this is the flop side of it, that this may also happen if you don't handle it properly. Let's go to Cosmin. Cosmin, in the flip side of it, how spirituality can contribute.
Uh, I think, like Sheena said, it's a problem of understanding the nature. First, we have to understand the nature, how the nature is working since millennia, or I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years, and how we came here, and what is our reaction to the nature, and what is the nature reaction in our actions, and so on. So I think there is before speaking about spirituality, we have to understand the core of the spirituality, which is the nature, and the nature of man and the woman. Also, it has to be understood, which is which is the quality, which is the place where we have to put these two big pieces of puzzle into the puzzle of the life. So I think one of the most important thing is that we have to go back to the nature, and we have to perceive the nature like it is. And by perceiving the nature, we can integrate in our daily life the characteristic and the laws which are natural. It's the nature itself which is expressing through us. And I think spirituality nowadays, it's wrong understood, and it's such a big circus which is happening right now all over the world, with all these practices which are very wrong understood. Like, the Bible, if you read the Bible, it's such a beautiful book, or another book, but it's wrong it's wrong interpreted. It's interpreted with the mind. It's interpreted with our memories, and that memories are the memories which are stored since millennia. So we have to go very deep in this
Cosmin added another point in discussion. He said, why spirituality may fail, because if the scriptures are misinterpreted, then it can be most dangerous. So that's amazing thing. And going back to the nature may help. And that takes us back to what Sheenaji said earlier. In nature, when I was an animal, a lion used to threaten my identity and my survival, and I used to react. Now I live in the concrete jungle, and my boss is the new lion, and he threatens my survival in the organization, and he is not open minded. I also react to him, he also react to me. So how to deal with this threat perception, Sheena? How to
Well,
remove this threat perception?
I have an answer. So if I just take it back a little, the whole thing with spirituality is understanding that a spirit is consciousness, and there's consciousness in every living being. So if you as a human connect to the consciousness within yourself, you understand that you are consciousness, and that your boss or other people's bosses, that when they start to speak and they say something that doesn't fit with you, once you are spiritual and you've entered that thing of connecting with your consciousness, you look at their actions and you realize that their actions are their conditioned mind. And you begin to become open-minded because you look at them and you go, okay, where is that coming from in him? What is his story? You don't react, you don't shut down, you don't get defensive. You understand that it is his perspective that is based on his history, and it's not attacking you, it's just his mind. And so once you are spiritual and spiritual enters your life, you can then view the world around you from the lens of knowing that all these different opinions, all these different perspectives are just perspectives of other people, and they're allowing you to understand those people. So instead of getting angry and closing down, you use it as a challenge to go, let me learn how that mind works. What is the source of it? What is the base? And maybe when I understand where it came from, either they were raped as a child or came through a war zone or a refugee, you can then begin to connect with them on a different level. So I think spirituality is very important for us to remove ourselves from the external world, connect to ourselves internally, and then sit back and just observe.
Nice.
And use it as a way for us to connect to each other and understand each other.
So Sheena reminds me of one of the stories of Upanishads. Two birds, at one bird is higher consciousness, another is lower consciousness. She said, when you rise in consciousness, then the sight is absolutely different. And she said that when you see yourself as subordinate, another person will be boss. But when you see yourself as consciousness, then another person is also consciousness. So how do you see yourself will define how do you see others. And seeing yourself in the right picture is called spirituality. Amazingly said, Sheena. And she also added, it reminds me of Raman Maharshi once said that somebody asked him that whether God is in form or not, without form. Raman Maharshi replied, it depends. If you think you are a form, God is in form. If you think you are not a form, God is not in form. So Sheena mentioned the importance of rising in consciousness. That will lead to removal of that threat, and that will make us open. Now the big question comes is, how do I rise in consciousness? Because consciousness is not at all in the syllabus of the kids, Stephen. Stephen mentioned that when we were kids, we were taught this, but there is never a subject of consciousness in schools. How to raise in consciousness then, Stephen?
So basically, let's go with the word spiritualism. So spiritualism comes from the root spirit, right? And spirit is like something which is kind of moving us along. So there's always like some part, like mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, physical health. But then like when you go with inspirium, expirium. So basically the breath itself is a really good way to connect with our spirit. But still that can cause us to be like more observant. Just because like in psychology, there is something called an observer. So basically, like when we feel the reaction or when we even react, we have to have somebody who is an observer, not the criticist. So this comes like from super ego, from our id, from something which is like the words of our parents, of our caregivers. When you go with the perspective of like just the observer, of like if I feel triggered by somebody saying, for example, when Sheena said about male and female like equality, when you feel triggered because of something, feel why do you feel triggered? What is that in your root, in your core that you feel triggered? And one of the best ways, of course, like inspirium, expirium, like the breath itself, to bring us back to the spirit, bring us back to the present moment, and then we can actually be an active observer. Therefore, we can actually grow as a person and be more and more open-minded along the way, but open-minded towards ourselves, not towards the people. Because when you're open-minded towards ourselves, when we feel from which position we react towards other people, then we can know, okay, now I don't need to react anymore because this was my wound as I was growing up because of this and that. Doesn't matter. I just do not need to react from this position. I'm not going to react from the position of a grown Stefan, for a grown person, not from the position of a child. So,
Nice.
inspirium, experium.
Nicely mentioned. Stephen G mentioned a couple of tips for us to how to be open-minded. I'll come to Cosmin G. Cosmin G, Stephen G mentioned connect with the breath. Breath and life go together. Be observer. Be aware about your triggers and be open-minded about yourself first. What are your tips? How can I get uplifted consciousness?
I have something that is coming from my practice, and I don't know how to say. I reached the point when I realized that you cannot control anything, and the breath is controlling you. And there are some things that you can understand, like driving a car or having a meal or something. This very logical and simple things. But I reach a point that there is an intelligence which is moving this life since millennia, and that intelligence it cannot be understood, in my opinion. It's a play. You have to be open, you have to practice good deeds, and you have to be in actions very clear and very open and very, very quiet. And by bringing quietness into the senses and mind, and cleanness into the body, I think that intelligence is creating naturally through yourself. It's not a tip. It's just you have to be authentic, and you have to find your way of expressing, because someone is expressing through the sports, someone is expressing through spirituality, through yoga, through, I don't know, fishing contests, as a medicine. I don't know, many things that can happen through us, and we can be artists in everything. So that is the moment, and the tip, the basic tip and the core tip of finding the connection with our authenticity to
Thank you very much, Cosmin G. Thank you. Now we got Gabriel G back. So let me ask him, and then I'll come to Sheena Ji. Gabriel Ji, the question in hand is how to rise in consciousness. So if you want a couple of, yes, how to rise in consciousness. Gabriel Ji, question to you is how to rise in consciousness. Any quick tips without elaborations?
Hi, yes. Good morning.
It is a difficult question for a person who
very
just
happy to be
started
here
into this.
because the first step was because I was with difficult issues, connect issues, and could you repeat the answer, please?
Okay, I'll come to you with the question. The question is how to rise in consciousness. Sheena Ji, I'll ask the question from
Yes,
you.
Okay. How to rise our consciousness? There are different ways because consciousness is very important, because in terms of spiritually, maybe it's being open-minded can allow us to explore and consider different spiritual beliefs and practices. So I begin from my body, because there is a base, corporal support for everything. And I begin with my body, always. And then, since this corporal support, you can work everything. And this corporal support means not work only. The actual neuroscience speaks about seven senses. No, a part of the five senses. We are talking about the proprioception and the interoception, and are not only neuronal receptors. There is a deeply receptor about our body, and we can work since this body, since the posture, the asana, the breathing, all the tips that we have to begin or to continue, because we began time ago to continue this open-minded, this work of know our in our minds.
Thank you, Gabriel ji.
And
She mentioned.
I begin since my body. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gabriel ji mentioned that start with body, command on asanas, and connect with the breath. Sheena ji, the question again comes back to you. What are the practical tips for the audience? How can I rise in consciousness?
So I'll be very quick. Obviously, people who are listening to this are practicing yoga or some sort of journey. So what I told all my students this morning was two things. First of all, this week, choose a class that you looked at and said, I didn't want to do. So choose a class that makes you feel uncomfortable, not the one you wanted to do. And today, when you wake up, do something that makes you feel incredibly uncomfortable. And when you enter it, don't enter it with your thinking mind, but with your feeling body. And just listen to what that experience is like for you. Because the raising of consciousness comes from raising of awareness of yourself. So the only tip I can give you today to start off with is just do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. And then understand why it made you feel uncomfortable and take that journey into yourself. Eat something that you normally dislike, drink something that you said you didn't like change your mindset and do things that you would normally not do, and then just understand why you decide not to do them, and then how you feel when you do. You probably will surprise yourself that you actually liked what you didn't like.
That's nice. Thank you very much. And Gabriel ji, because you joined us late, I can again give you 1 minute for specific one or two more points. If you can suggest us a couple of more points, how to rise in consciousness. One thing you mentioned about asanas, breathing, any specific practical tools you would like to suggest?
Obviously, the traditions talks about asanas, breathing, but asana means sit comfortable. I am agree with this. Sit comfortable and means to be to accept. If I accept my body, I accept my structure, I accept my different levels of my mind, because we have a level like the gunas, like the sattvic mind, tamasic mind. We are in this moment. We are trying a sattvic mind. We are working a sattvic mind. I love this moment for this. Previously, I have had a little bit issue to get into this meeting. I was ready 15 minutes after, but impossible issue. And where was my tamasic mind? But I am getting again the sattvic mind. So how mind is all time in the Andean philosophy. We have the three pachas: the Alaf Pacha, Aka Pacha, Manka Pacha, a basic world, an intermediate universe, and subtle spiritual universe. So maybe we can work more time, not always, obviously, this spiritual mind, this sattvic mind.
Thank you very
But
much,
the
Gabriel.
base is our body, our
In
breathing,
the interest of the time, I
our
have to, yes. So, in the
asana.
interest of
Yes.
the time, let's conclude what we discussed. Gabriel ji also gave his input. So, we started our discussion mentioning about, Sheena ji mentioned that what exactly makes a person close minded. She said that the attachment with the objects and the false identity makes people close minded. When some person attacks on my possessions, I take it as the attack on me. She said that one of those examples is gender divide also. If when somebody attacks, I feel insecure, and the identity feels threatened. How to deal with that threat, how to remove the threat. Shinaji mentioned that conditioning. Whenever a person is saying something, don't listen to the words only, go beyond it with the spirit consciousness. See that what was the conditioning of the person. You don't know his story, you don't know from where he's coming, what all made his opinion, and then you will be more compassionate towards that person, because the person is the product of his own life experiences. She also said that identify the triggers, what you don't like. Those are the triggers from where your exploration may begin. And these triggers may be what you eat, drink, or anything. Whatever you are not liking today, go for it. Face the brutes. Stephen G said that kids from the childhood, a synthetic self is given to us, and we don't want to listen further more. Anything that is threatening the synthetic self, a defense mechanism covers it. And that's why it is very much important that I need to define myself in the right spirit. And he said the solution to the threat is a spirituality, but there is a threat to spirituality itself. And the threat is that you may become spiritually arrogant, spiritual escape, and people become, they are not good to the next door neighbors and they are talking high things. So these are the spiritual risks that people go through. And then, as a solution, he said, if you want to elevate in consciousness, one is connect with your breath, be observer of your behavior, be aware of the triggers, and fourth is be first open-minded towards yourself, accept yourself. Kosminji mentioned that if you want to know whether the person is really open-minded, see whether is he listening carefully or you're not, and whether he's open to accept all the ideas which he doesn't appreciate, but still is he receiving it. But adopting those ideas in life is a matter of choice. You receive it openly, and then you decide what to accept finally or know your true nature. And he said, in the name of spiritualism, lots of circus is going on. And the circus is because of the misinterpretation of the scriptures. And that is why the spiritual arrogance may happen. He suggested that you can't control everything. Live life as an instrument. And there is a bigger universal intelligence that is making things happen. And we are the byproduct of the same universal intelligence that connects us, that feeling of surrender to the divine. And then our friend Gabriel ji mentioned that you may like to start with your body and connect with the breath and start thinking with the sattvic mind. It's the rajasic and tamasic mind that makes people struggle, but the sattvic mind makes us really open minded. I'm sure, friends, that we were enough open minded in our discussion, and listening us, you will also feel some glimpses of open mindedness with spirituality. My thanks to all honorable guests. I wish we could have 1 hour of panel discussion. I was so interested to listen, but now we don't have time. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.